I want to recognize a couple of partnerships. First of all, IWF Edmonton is partnering with us today. So welcome to everybody from the Edmonton chapter who is joining us. But our most important partner is the U.S. Consulate. We are delighted with the cooperation. In fact, the U.S. Consulate is really the driver behind this entire event. We hope through this event to create an enabling environment for more women to enter politics. And given our situation in Calgary and Edmonton provincially, we've got municipal elections, we've got some disturbances, I will just say, at the provincial level, federally and globally. This is a time when I think we definitely need to see more women in public office. And so we're hoping this event will be one of those events that will encourage more women to participate. Our key partner is the U.S. Consulate, and I would like to introduce Lucia Piazza, who is the Consul General for Alberta, Saskatchewan, and the Northwest Territories. Lucia actually drove this event, so thank you very much. Lucia has received many awards for her exemplary service in over the years, and since her arrival in Calgary as Consul General, she has promoted U.S.-Canada relations vigorously. We have loved having her here. I want to congratulate Lucia as well on the fact that she is moving to an exciting new position with the U.S. State Department. That's the good news. The bad news is that she's leaving Calgary in July. So Lucia, it's been wonderful having you in Calgary, and thank you for your role in initiating and making sure that we had this wonderful event today.
Thanks so much for that very kind introduction, Bev. I'm going to keep my remarks very short because our speaker is incredible and I'm really looking forward to learning from her. I do, of course, want to start by thanking the IWF for partnering with us on this. I think this is probably actually my last official event with IWF before my departure, so it's been a real joy. I wouldn't have been anywhere near as successful as I was had it not been for my friends at IWF, so thank you. And of course, I would like to offer a very warm welcome to Susannah Wellford. Thank you very much for joining us and for talking to our audience here in Alberta. You know, between the United States and Canada, women in theory have all the opportunity they need to take on leadership roles. And while we're seeing great progress for women in management and corporate leadership, this isn't necessarily always translating to political representation. The barriers that women are facing in entering politics are similar to those that are faced by women in the boardroom, but the nature of politics being quite different, the structural supports and policies don't exist to ensure that those same limitations, those same barriers rather, don't limit opportunities for women. And that's why organizations like Running Start and Equal Voice in Canada are working tirelessly in our communities to ensure that women are supported and are empowered to overcome these barriers. We need more women in these types of positions. We need more women in power, not because it's equal and right necessarily, it is, but we need more women in these positions because female leaders do incredible things for their community. And, you know, we're on month 15 of a global pandemic, and you need to look no further than the countries that have managed this well and look at who's at the very top of those countries. Women in politics make a big difference. Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, who was the first woman to fill that position in the United States, has a quote that said, you know, women in power can be counted on to raise issues that others overlook, to support ideas that others oppose, and to seek an end to abuses that others accept. So it's my sincere hope on behalf of my colleagues in Ottawa who are facilitating the tech today and on my team here in Calgary, that the conversations that we'll have will help you identify ways so that you can support women who are aspiring to lead. And if you yourself are a woman with those aspirations, that you'll gain the tools to build the support network that you'll need to be successful. So thank you all very much for taking time out of your busy day, especially for those of us on Mountain Time. It's lunchtime as well. But we really do hope that you'll leave this session inspired and empowered to continue the conversations and continue the work that you do, especially the IWF, to uplift women and to support their leadership aspirations. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucia, for those very wise and inspiring comments. And it is going to be quite a special session today. So thank you so much for your part in making sure that this happens. I'd like now to introduce Brenda Kenny as our overall moderator. We seem to have several levels of moderator. Brenda is an IWF Calgary Chapter member. She has been working with our chair, Jennifer Hatfield, over the past number of months on another initiative to encourage women in leadership and to encourage them to participate in civic and political activities. And so she seemed like the ideal person to be moderating this event. So over to you, Brenda.
Oh, thanks, Bev. Thank you. So I'll be very brief. And if you want to chat to me or to Julia Rogers, who I think in the list shows up as chat moderator, if you've got any questions at all about process or how to submit questions, do let us know along the way. But the outline of the event today, and Susannah will speak a little bit more about this, is primarily Susannah will give us an introduction. We'll go into a breakout group, and you've got worksheets, I believe, in advance. And step one, in terms of characterizing the issue of most import, will be breakout number one. And then we'll come back and discuss that and go into breakout number two to flesh those out a little more. I want to welcome as well. We have on the roster 3 mayoral candidates. I believe 2 are with us right now. And I just really want to give a huge congratulations to Jen and Grace and Yodi for having stepped forward in this incredibly important race. You all deserve our very best wishes, and so thrilled to have you with us today. So we do have moderators in each of the breakout sessions. If you as participants do your jobs well, they won't have anything to do. But assuming people are shy or hesitant, I can't imagine in this group that being a common problem, but they will be helping to remind us of the issues and the questions, call on people to help participate. Just remind people to listen respectfully, please. Of course, this is not about agreeing, but exploring together, being mindful of time, and they'll help you as a group choose a spokesperson who will be a rapporteur when we come back to discussion, so that we can be crisp about the summary of key points. So with that, I'd like to introduce our guest of honor, Susannah Wellford. And Susannah has provided an incredible amount of leadership and knowledge to this space over the last 2 decades, inspiring young women and girls to think about political leadership and pursue that dream. It's wonderful, Susannah, that you've been able to touch women well before they might put forward a candidacy and start to change the frame of reference. And with that in mind as well, Susannah has not only run her own organizations, but has spoken and lectured broadly around the world on these issues. So we couldn't be more pleased to have you with us today, and I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you to the Consulate for having me here today, and to all of you at IWF. I have so much to talk to you all about. This training that we're going to do today is something that I do very frequently with the Running Start participants, and we usually spend a day on it, and we have an hour. So we're going to just get a little taste of what some of the Running Start training is, and I think that you all will find it to be really fun. So let me tell you a little bit about what Running Start is and what we do, and then we'll talk about what you all are going to be doing today. So I'm the founder of Running Start. Back in 2007, I got very frustrated with the fact that there were so few women running for office, especially young women. Men tend to run for office really early. Women tend to run for office much later because, in part, we like to check all those boxes. Like, I've got my graduate degree and I've got a great job and I'm fabulously successful and now I'm ready. Whereas men often they'll run. So in 2007, I thought, what if instead of working with women who are in their 30s and 40s and 50s to convince them to run for office, what if by the time they got to that age, they knew that they could do this? They understood why it was so important to run and so important to get more women in. And Lucia, what you said about just what women bring to politics, that's one of my favorite quotes, and it's really true. So what Running Start does is we work with high school and college age women to, as Brenda said, really flip the script on what they think about politics, and more importantly, what they think about their own leadership. So when you talk to teenage boys versus teenage girls, the teenage boys are so much more confident in their qualifications. And, by the time a girl reaches her, her teen years, she starts to doubt herself and starts to doubt that she has what it takes to lead. You all can imagine why this is true. I mean, for, the whole history of the world, men have predominantly been the leaders. And so it makes sense that, girls who are looking at the world, trying to decide what they want to do, that they might look out and say, I'm not sure that this career is for me, because there just aren't a lot of people who look like me. So what Running Start does is we have small programs. So I think we're about 40 people today. That's about the size of the programs that we usually do. We bring people together, and then we have them do exercises that increase their confidence, that show them that, the skill that they thought that they couldn't do, which very frequently is public speaking or fundraising, that in fact, with a little bit of practice, not only can they do it, but they can do it really well. So at Running Start, we say that we give our students 3 things. We give them confidence, and actually, let me just rephrase. We help them gain confidence. We help them gain capability in those skills that they need in order to lead. And then in some ways, the most important thing that we do is we connect them to a big supportive network, both of peers who are going to help support them and encourage them along the way, but also of older women and men who are going to help them get on that path. So some of the big exercises that we do, we do a fundraising game. We do lots of public speaking exercises, because public speaking is obviously, if you can't do public speaking, you can't really run a campaign just on email. We do advocacy and messaging sessions, and we do exercises on how to build a supportive network. And so we're going to do 2 of those exercises today. We're going to talk about what is your issue and help sort of define, what you're passionate about. And then the second one is how to build a supportive network. And so maybe some of you all are thinking, but wait, I am not a teenage girl. And what does this lady know about training women who are not teenage girls? And I really want to put you at ease and tell you the things that we do at Running Start to train these 14-year-olds. They're exactly the same skills that you need if you're 50 and you're thinking about running. Because so often the things that hold women back, as has been talked about already today, they're not things that need an advanced degree. The things that keep women from running for office, those are the things that can be taught, and that often require simple things like doing hard things that you're afraid of doing and getting out of your comfort zone. So we are going to do those exercises, and we will break you out into breakout rooms relatively soon. But I also wanted to address, okay, I'm going to address 2 things. But the first is, you may be thinking, well, I don't want to run for office. I'm here because I'm interested in politics, or I'm here because I want to support women. And so indeed, everything that we're going to talk about today will absolutely help those things. Because if you want to be a leader in anything, if you want to solve an issue in your community, if you want to solve an issue in the school, if you want to be promoted to a different position, you need to have agency. You need to have confidence. You need to understand that your voice matters, and be able to raise it in a way that is going to get other people to listen to you. So the first message is, oh, guys, I hope it's not too loud. Can you guys hear me? Because I could put earphones in if it's too loud. I'm in Brooklyn, New York today, and it's surprisingly loud out on the street. But so first, yes, everything we're going to talk about is transferable. If you don't ever want to run for office, you will still learn valuable skills by doing these exercises. But so as I think Brenda said, I have had the pleasure of speaking to groups all around the world, and to, even though my focus is young women, I actually frequently speak to women of all different ages. And back when I started, I used to always begin my speeches with the same question. And the question is, raise your hand if you think the world would be a better place if we had more women leading it. And right. Oh, please raise your hands. Yes. Okay. That's, that's really good. So I got almost unanimous hands raised in every group that I was talking to. I mean, it didn't matter if I was talking to, teenage girls in Sri Lanka, or if I was talking to business women in Brussels. Everybody gets that. We need more women in office for a variety of reasons. But then I would follow it up and I would ask a second question. You all can probably guess what this question is. So then I would say, and you all don't have to do this now, but I mean, possibly you will want to do it. So I would ask them to raise their hands if they were planning on running for political office. And anybody want to go ahead and, oh, hi. Okay, Kim, Jim, that's really good. So, I mean, I got the same results again, no matter where I was. And the results were that even though everybody agreed we need more women to get into leadership at all levels, when you asked, well, who's going to do this? There weren't a lot of takers. And so since the beginning with Running Start, we have encouraged the people who come to our programs to suspend disbelief for just an hour. So, I mean, we have about an hour left. And even if you know in your heart of hearts that you would never run, absolutely, like that's the worst career you can ever imagine, spend this next hour imagining doing it, imagining what it would be like, and thinking, if I was going to do this, what would my issue be? If I was going to do this thing, this incredibly audacious, crazy, impossibly difficult thing, who would my support network be? Because what I really have learned over the years is that none of us, that's not really true. Most of us are scared of the idea of doing it. Most of us don't come easily to this idea that I'm going to run. And I have interviewed, I mean, hundreds of people who have made that decision to run, whether it's for Congress or for running for class president in their college. And so frequently I hear the same story. I hear, I didn't want to run. I wanted somebody else to do it, but nobody else was there to do it. And so I needed to stand up and do it. And that is so moving to me because it shows many women, we're not as lured in by the idea of being that important, powerful person who everybody will call a special title. We are about solving problems and getting things done. And if we see that those things are not being done, sometimes we'll step up and we will say, well, we'll do it. So that's what I really want you all to do with the rest of our time here. And I want to tell you one story that it's my favorite story, and I tell it way too often, although it has an awesome twist now. So back in 2009, Running Start had a student attend our high school program, and I'll even tell you her name. Her name is Rana Abdelhamid, and she did a great job at all aspects of this really intensive program. And at the end of it, she won our campaign simulation. And I came up to her afterwards and I said, Rana, oh my gosh, you were so amazing. I can't wait to see you run for office. And she looked at me, I mean, without any hesitation, she's like, I could never run for office. And she said, I'm a Muslim woman. And she wore, she still does, she wears a headscarf. And she said, there's nobody like me in power. There's nobody like me in politics. I mean, now in the US there is, but at that time there really wasn't. And so she knew she wanted to do big things, but she was going to do them behind the scenes because nobody would ever vote for her. And so I told her, if you count yourself out, and if you want to run but you don't run, then there's never going to be anybody who looks like you who runs. Like you have to, somebody's got to be the first. And so she went to, you know, this was back when she was 18, and she went to college, and she ran for student government in a slate of all men, and she won. And she then went on to found a really successful nonprofit that works all around the world. And just April 1st, I got a call from her that she's running for U.S. Congress. I mean, it's so exciting to me, because I think there's so many stories we tell ourselves about how we are not the right person. We don't have what it takes for whatever reason, or we need one more thing, one more degree, or we need more money, or we need a different network. And yet those things hold us back, when some of us would be just so excellent and transformational if we were to run. So I actually had set a timer so that I didn't go over, and now I can't find it. Oh, see, look at that. I did go over, but now it's perfect timing, because now I'll take you right into the exercise. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to talk about what is your issue. I don't know whether you all did your homework. At Running Start, we actually never get the opportunity to give people homework ahead of time. So I thought it was great that you guys actually got the sheet a day ahead. If you did not have a chance to do it, that is absolutely fine, because most people don't. And if you did, thank you for doing that. So you have the sheet, you're going to be in your small breakout room. I want to give you just a couple of tips before we break you out. So the first thing is, I don't want to make this gendered, but I think possibly we're all women here anyway. So women, so frequently we're used to needing to be really polished and really perfect, and not airing our dirty laundry, keeping things tight, at least the women that I know. And so part of what this exercise is about, it's about sharing and figuring out how to speak about issues that are often deeply, deeply personal to you. Because the first thing that people are going to ask you when you run for office is, why are you running? And I can't tell you how many times I've asked somebody why they're running, and they haven't, they just look like a deer in the headlights, and they don't know why, and they can't articulate it. So that's what this is about. This is about looking at your life and thinking, what is it that just gets me up every morning, that is, I'm so passionate about, that I'm going to read everything about it, and that I can't rest until this issue, I'm able to make some traction with this issue. And so I really encourage you all to pull from your lives when you are thinking about this issue. Don't think of some academic, esoteric issue that you've read about but you don't have any connection to. Pull from your own lives, and that will likely be the most valuable thing that you can talk about, and that the thing that will give you the most connection. And then the last thing I want to tell you before we break you out is the third page of the sheets that you got is an elevator pitch worksheet. The reason that that's there, that's a whole nother session that we do, which we're not going to do today. But as you think about your issue, when you meet somebody at a party, you're not going to have a half an hour to talk about what your issue is. You're lucky if you get a minute or 30 seconds. And so that sheet is designed to help you condense. So you don't need it for now, but you might want to look at it to see what are the elements that allow you to condense. Is everybody ready to break out? Well, I got to pop into most of the breakout rooms, and one second. And I really enjoyed listening to what you all had to say. Two things just struck me so deeply. One was somebody talking about how important servant leadership was. And that's something that I feel so strongly about. When I do this exercise, the thing that I think about is, who would I want to vote for? And that's who I would want to vote for. And then, and I don't see her on here, but then there was another wonderful woman talking about how she has 2 daughters, and she does not want her daughters to know their place, because there isn't a place. There's not like a role. They can do anything. And I loved that. I know we're a little bit over time, but I can't resist. I'm going to tell you a really short story that just I think is very relevant to what we were just talking about. So there's an American candidate, Angie Craig. The first time she ran for Congress, she did she was very by the book, and she didn't talk at all about the fact that she was gay. In the second campaign, she decided, I am going to start my campaigning with an ad of me with my wife. And she said, and if I don't win because I do it, then I don't want to be in Congress. And of course she did win, but it's that showing of yourself, which is the magic, I think, that gives us these political figures that really inspire us. Okay, so moving on quickly to the second breakout session. It doesn't need that much explanation. It's really about the fact that in order to do anything, but certainly to run for office or to solve a problem in your community, you need a network. You need people who are going to help you. You need people who are going to help to spread your message and to support you. And the reason, I suppose there are a lot of reasons that we do this exercise with every Running Start group, but women don't always ask for help. And you all are not teenage girls, and I hope that this does not apply to you, but so many of the cohorts that come through Running Start talk about how women are often their worst enemies. And there's nothing that upsets me more than that. And so this exercise is about who is in your support network, who can you reach out to and ask to believe in you and to help you and support you. And I have a lot of good stories about it, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
If anyone has any further questions or comments, we only have about 5 minutes, but there's enough time. If there was some other issue that came up, please do pop it into the chat, and we'll be watching for those. And while we're waiting for those, Susannah, I just maybe I'll ask you a question from my seat, and that is, when you've witnessed these conversations over 20 years, you shared with us earlier some of the key takeaways for you, but maybe I could ask this: what do you think has changed in the last 2 or 3 years in terms of women entering politics, hesitating, and or coming all in? What's different now than when you look back at, say, 5 or 10 years ago?
You know, in the U.S., and I'd be interested to hear what it's like in Canada, I think that the beautiful thing is a lot of people who didn't see anybody who looked like them in politics, they are now realizing how just fundamentally important it is to get somebody who looks like them in politics. And we have seen, this huge increase of diversity in American politics, really starting in 2018, but continuing today. And that's the biggest difference, is that we've had so many firsts. It's like that is the most notable thing when you look at US elections, is there are just so many different types, different identities, different demographics that are finally stepping up and running. And, if you believe, like I do, that it's diversity that gives us the best decisions, that gives us the best governing bodies, because we're bringing in so many different perspectives, then it's really good news for American politics.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, that's great. And so I hear you saying too, that as people realize that while we may all in our own ways be seeing some suffering in democratic process, at the same time, the mirror image of that is a deeper recognition of the importance of stepping up.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. Right. So, I mean, in some ways, it's one of the most difficult times we've had in American politics in years and years. But sometimes you need those times in order to catalyze people and to say, okay, well, this is the time I've got to do it. They need me.
Right. Oh, that's great. I'm still not seeing questions, so I'll ask one more, and then I think we'll actually be ready to close. But I heard from some of the rapporteurs this challenge of trolls, and of course social media has made that a challenge, and certainly we've had reports in Alberta, I'm sure elsewhere, of very really potentially violent kinds of things happening when there's anonymity. How do women feel confident when they're faced with those kind of attacks in social media?
Yeah, I mean, that is such a great question. And that's something that the young women talk about a lot, because I think they face it socially already, just being a kid in high school, going on the internet, but, they face a lot of trolling and, negative body image, et cetera. And then they imagine what it would be like if they were doing something that exposed their profile to the entire country or to a bigger population. It's terrifying. And yeah, we had a student a few years ago who somebody sent around pictures of, they cut off her head and put it on another body and sent around pictures of her with no clothes on to all of her constituents. I mean, things like that happen all the time. And I think that it feels so much more personal, because for women, it's so often sexual, and it's so often about our bodies even. And so, we can't, I can't tell the people we train that that's not going to happen. And the only thing to say really is, in order to run for office, you need to be really passionate about why you're doing it, which is where we started this whole conversation. You need to know why you're doing it, because there are going to be so many things along the way that are going to make you think, this is hard. I don't know if I can do this. And so if you go in there with that passion, I think that that is your best defense up against all of these negative elements that are going to try to derail you. And, I'm seeing Jan nod, who's run. I know that you're running, and I'm sure that a lot of you all, if we had more time, I would love to hear personal stories about how you've dealt with it, because it's one of those things that the only solution is just knowing that you're there for a purpose, and that if you can stay the course, you're going to make real change and make a difference and help people.
Well, thanks, Susannah. And knowing that the 51% are with you all the way, and we're not going to put up with this. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Bev to help us close off. And with that, I'll ask to remove from the spotlight, but it's been marvelous. Thank you, Susannah. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And over to you, Bev.
Thank you. I'm going to start by thanking Susannah. This is such important work you're doing. Thank you so much for moderating, or for leading this session, for creating this this program with this guided approach to helping candidates and potential candidates and people that hadn't thought about being candidates but really should be, to think about the key issues that will lead them to political success. I have to say as well, I've been so impressed by the amount of sharing, the very frank sharing of information. And a recurring theme is just that women need to support each other, including candidates supporting each other, right? We're all in this together ultimately. And so I loved that feeling of mutual support among everybody that was participating. This was invaluable, I think, for those who are already running for office, for those who might be thinking of running for office, and for those of us who will find it easier now to identify potential candidates and support them. So I think absolutely invaluable for all of us. Thank you also to the Lucia and the U.S. Consulate in Calgary, also the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa, who I know was supporting, and Casey Vaughn in Calgary, your right-hand person, who was invaluable. She's just been a real trooper in helping us through this whole process of putting on this wonderful event. Thank you to the moderators who we recruited on relatively short notice. Thank you to everybody who participated. We're so pleased to see how many candidates actually attended today. Good luck to all of you. I know some of you might be running against one another, but good luck to all of you. I hope you have good campaigns, minimum number of trolls. We all believe that we need to have more women in political office, that it will make a huge difference in our city, our province, and country, and the world. So it's wonderful to see all of you supporting this theme and supporting our female candidates. The last thing I just want to say is a huge thank you to the Consulate and to Suzanne, who have generously invited participants to get in touch with them should you have more questions. So thank you to Susannah and to the Consulate. And I think that's it. So thank you to everybody. It's been a wonderful event. Let's elect more women.